Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Rock and Roll Gear Show. Today, from the basement, we're going to be talking about an interesting question. Can you, and I think you can you get a genuine old vintage Strat for less than 250 quid? I think you can, and I'll show you how. Fender's been around for a long time. They got in trouble in the late 70s, early 80s, and they resurfaced a brand that they bought many years before to be the flagship model for their so-called budget price guitars, and that name was, as you know it now, Squier. Squier came out in 1982. It was a big Fender logo, small Fender logo. Not many produced. They're widely thought of as being really, really good instruments, and as such, they're highly prized. Roll on a year, not even that, and then it became Squier, big logo, Fender, small logo, still made in Japan. Didn't go on for much longer, and then they started introducing the next iteration, which is the one we're going to talk about today, and these are the early Korean built Strats. I've got one here. This example is from 1987. 1987. So what did you get for your money? Well, you got solid wood body, you got a lovely maple neck with rosewood fingerboard, proper skunk stripe. That's not just photographed on for effect, that is real wood that's in there. Roller saddles on the string trees on the headstock. The dimensions of the guitar were very, very close to the original. So yeah, they look good. And so many of these people got those moody fake Fender logos and put them on. And you're hard pushed to tell the difference. If you know, you know. But if you don't, you're easy fooled. They're worth more, I think, as a Squier. Let's not fool anyone. It is what it is. But what it is superb. The neck profile itself is excellent. I've got a slightly later one here to show you as well, but it's the contouring on the back of that neck is beautifully chamfered in. It's not like the later ones which are made in China or in Indonesia. I've got a Squier Mini here as an example, where you get almost this kind of almost like a volute, where it's quite a hard. You can almost see the whole profile of that. You see that? Yeah, you can see it just about there. Also poor quality tuners. Decent guitar, plays very well, sounds great, brilliant for what you want to use it for, but not quite the quality of these earlier ones. The more modern ones are great, by the way, the Squier Bullets and the Strats and Tellys, superb. I've got a friend who's got a couple, and I think I really highly rate them. But if you really want to get a genuine vintage Fender, Squier, Strat, have a look at these. Value superb. So what else do you get? The tailpiece, a proper sort of synchronized tremolo, traditional thing. We've seen it on thousands of guitars made since and before. Bridge saddles on these ones, and I think for quite a few years they actually stamped Fender as well. Upgrades that you can make to these, very, very easy. You can change the pots, put a higher value pot in there, different pickups. I had reason to need a bit more bite from this particular Strat, so I did a little while ago, swapped this out for a Iron Gear. Brilliant pickups, great value by the way. An Iron Gear sort of railed humbucker, which does the job beautifully. You can get Strat tones from it as well, sort of slightly more driven tones, very, very well. The feel of it, it's a lovely sort of almost like a C-shaped neck, quite shallow, but nice, very comfortable, very playable all the way up the fretboard. The fretwork is excellent. Obviously, if you're looking at the older guitars, you're going to see some fret wear. That's to be expected. But if you're looking at this from the point of view of being a vintage instrument, honestly, how much money have you got to spend with Fender to get something which is genuinely looks as good as that? I tell you, it's thousands of pounds. Even the tuners on these early ones were better. These are Goto tuners. Some of them were branded. They had little Fender logos on the back. This is the Squiers I'm talking about. The later ones have got the cheaper efforts where they've got just like a geared tuner with just a cover that's screwed over the top, such as that Indonesian Mini Squier, that sort of thing. That's got that sort of thing on there. But how could you go wrong? You know, 250 pounds, and this is 34 years old, still plays beautifully. It's a real great thing to have in your collection for not a lot of money. Not a lot of money. And the sounds are superb as well. I mean, red Strat, you might think Hank Marvin. I'm thinking Mark Knopfler. So, you know, 5-way pickup selector switch, put it out of phase, and you get tones like, you know. and stuff, you know, and if you're going for the sort of not the greatest guitar player as well, but you get where I'm coming from with it. Brilliant Strat tones from the neck, you know. Nice round tones, middle position. Out of phase, second out of phase position at the front. All in all, a really, really playable, decent investment. You're not going to lose money. It's going to grow £5 notes, albeit very, very slowly. But over time, you're going to see a return. You're never going to lose money on one of these things. I love Fender stuff, and some's good, some's not so good. But they were built from sort of like 86 to probably 91, 92, maybe not that late. Maybe it's 2-3 years of production, but it's worth a look at. Not all Squiers are created equal. Some are greater than others. Have a look at these early 80 ones. The modern ones are comparable, for sure. I've played those, but if you want something genuine vintage that's not been played around with to pretend to be old, this is where you want to be. So, how do you identify if it's a 1980s Squier Strat? Well, the obvious thing is going to have the Squier logo on the headstock, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's 1980s. Check the serial number. It should start with an E. That's the prefix for 80. So that's another marker. All the information on these guitars is on the front of the headstock, nothing on the back, nothing on the heel of the neck. Also, you're going to see on the headstock, there's going to have these black plastic blocks with rollers in. They are the string trees, very much of this era. That's a marker of a guitar of the 80s from Squier. Also, you get this shrouded access point for the truss rod. That's again typical of a 1980s Korean built Squier. Really nice bit of wood there. This guitar hasn't been cleaned, by the way, so I apologise for that. There's going to be a bit of gunk in there in the frets, but I thought I'm just going to get this video out for you. The 12th fret, the position markers are a little bit further apart than they are on a genuine Fender. You'd find on the genuine Fender those dots are going to sit in between say these two strings and those two strings, and slightly, but they're not so far as they're on the edge of the neck as a lot of the copies, or even some of the later Chinese type Squiers did have for a period of time. As for on the body itself, they made these 80s Korean ones. You had a choice. You could either have a 50s reissue or a 60s reissue. This one's the 60s reissue. How do you tell that? Okay, well, this screw here and the pick guard sitting between the two pickups, that's like a 62 Fender Strat. On the 50s version that they did, it was a single ply scratch plate. On the 60s one, it was the triple ply as this one is. Other than that, they were the same guitar. The colours that they offered were Lake Placid blue, Fiesta red, there was an off-white and black, and that was it. They were the choices of colours for the guitars of that period. There's that iron gear railed humbucker, which I'm going to review at a later date. Fantastic little pickup that. Here's the this is all stock stuff apart from that iron gear pickup. The bridge saddles would have Fender stamped on them. You can just see it's in there. Very traditional 6-point floating tremolo system. And I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but the way these plastics have aged is fantastic. They look really, really good. Traditional jack input there. Now I'm going to try and... I've dropped it. Bear with me. Okay, I'm going to measure the thickness of the body so you get an idea of what this is like. Okay, so I've got some calipers there. And that is showing a body thickness of 47.7 millimeters, and that's down there by the jack socket. The width of the neck at the 12th is, let's do it the other way around. The width of the neck at the 12th is 42.8, and we come down to the 12th, it is
51.8 millimeters. So full size. It's not mucking about. It's a decent guitar, proper Stratocaster, albeit a Squire one. There's the back of the neck. Lovely piece of wood. This is what I was talking about earlier on, the way that this neck it goes into the headstock area. This is beautifully done. It doesn't follow the profile of the headstock around with a like a lip there. It's really beautifully crafted piece of wood. There's that lovely skunk stripe. You can see in there. There's even, you know what, catch it in a certain light. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it in here with this light because it's not that great. There's even a little bit of a, you see that there's a tiny little bit of flame on this as well. It's not really showing up, but still, there we go. So that's how you're going to identify a 1980s Squire Stratocaster. Forgot to mention the tuners. Okay, they varied month by month, but this particular guitar came out of the factory with Goto tuners on, which was a bit of a bonus. So there you go. So hope that's been informative to you and a look around what I think, as I said before, is a sleeper. This guitar is going to be something you ought to have in your collection, or if you're considering getting a Strat and that's the kind of money that you want to spend, I'd have a look at that. Seriously would. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. See you next time.